Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at prompt engineering and specifically chain of thought prompting. Have you ever wanted to know exactly how AI thinks? Like if it could think out loud and we could follow each step?
It's like being able to peek into the AI's brain. And it is pretty cool. Chain of thought prompting lets us see how it reasons through problems step by step.
It's like having AI show its work. And what's even more fascinating is that it actually mirrors how we think as humans.
Yeah, exactly. We break down complex problems into simpler steps. And with chain of thought prompting, we can actually see AI doing the same thing.
So it's not just about getting the right answer, right? It's about understanding the thought process, the why behind it. I was just reading Deborah Pruseth's blog, and they made a really great point about this.
Oh, absolutely. Transparency is key, especially when we're talking about AI. If we can understand how it arrives at a conclusion, then we can trust the AI more. That's so important, especially when it comes to really complex or critical decisions.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. Can you walk us through how chain of thought prompting actually works?
Sure. Think of it like a conversation with the AI. There are three main parts. You start by posing a question, something that needs more than just a simple factual answer.
Right, so something that requires a bit more, a deeper level of thinking.
Exactly. Then you guide the AI through its reasoning process.
So it's almost like we're asking the AI to think out loud and explain its steps.
You got it. And finally, the AI arrives at a conclusion, like the answer, but one that's based on all those logical steps it just took.
Makes sense. And Pruseth uses some interesting examples in their blog to show how versatile this technique is. Like calculating the speed of a car, for instance. Let's say a car travels 400 kilometers in 5 hours.
Okay, yeah. So with chain of thought prompting, instead of just giving the answer, the AI would first lay out the formula. So, speed equals distance divided by time.
Right. And
then it would go through the steps of plugging in those values. So you have 400 kilometers for the distance, 5 hours for the time.
so it's actually demonstrating that it understands how to apply the formula.
Exactly. And then, of course, it would arrive at the answer, which is 80 kilometers per hour. Pretty straightforward example, but it really shows how the AI is thinking step by step.
And that's really the key, right? Seeing the AI's thought process, even for simple calculations. Pruseth also talks about how this can be applied to scientific concepts, too. Like, for example, explaining why mixing baking soda and vinegar creates that fizzing reaction.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Instead of just stating the chemical reaction, the AI could actually walk us through the process step by step.
So to start by identifying the components?
Yeah, it might say that baking soda is a base and vinegar is an acid. And then it could explain that when you mix acids and bases, they neutralize each other, and in this case, they release carbon dioxide gas.
Okay, so those gas bubbles that cause the fizzing. That's a really neat way to break down a scientific process and make it easier to understand.
Definitely. And it shows that chain of thought prompting isn't just about getting the right answer, but also about understanding the underlying principles, which is, how we really learn.
So it's a powerful tool for learning and exploration.
Yeah.
But Pruseth also cautions that it's not a magic solution. They emphasize the importance of critical thinking and being aware of AI's limitations.
Right. Oh, for sure. I mean, chain of thought prompting can make AI seem like it's thinking on a deeper level, but it's still a tool. And it's not a substitute for, good old-fashioned human judgment and expertise.
We still need to be careful and critical about the information AI gives us, especially when it comes to complex or sensitive topics.
Right. So, yes, chain of thought prompting is powerful, but it's essential to use it responsibly.
This has been really insightful so far. I'm really starting to grasp the potential of chain of thought prompting. But before we move on, is there anything else we should highlight about this technique or any other interesting points from Pruseth's blog?
Yeah, there's one thing. Pruseth suggests that crafting really effective chain of thought prompts is a skill that needs to be developed. It's not just about plugging in a formula. It's about experimenting and finding the right approach for different kinds of questions and problems.
So it's like learning a new language. You need to understand the structure, but you also need to kind of get a feel for how the AI responds to different phrasings and approaches.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the better you become at guiding the AI's reasoning in a productive way.
Sounds like a fascinating challenge.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who are just getting started with prompt engineering, what would be your advice? Where should they begin?
I'd say just start experimenting. Dive into chain of thought prompting, play around with different approaches, see what works. You might be surprised by what you can discover.
It's about embracing that curiosity and exploration. using chain of thought prompting as a tool to learn and discover new things.
Exactly. And as you practice and refine your prompts, you'll gain a deeper understanding of how AI reasons. And who knows, you might even enhance your own thinking and problem-solving abilities in the process.
So it's a win-win situation, really.
Absolutely. And if you want to go even deeper, I highly recommend checking out Dibabrata Pruseth's blog. They have a ton of information on prompt engineering. There are practical tips, real-world examples, and thought-provoking insights that can really help you unlock the full potential of chain of thought prompting.
It's a great resource for anyone who's curious about this rapidly evolving field of AI. We'll make sure to include a link to the blog in the show notes, so stick around. When we come back, we'll continue our deep dive into chain of thought prompting, exploring its practical applications and how you can start using it to unlock the power of AI.
It's amazing how such a seemingly simple technique, like, asking the AI to think out loud, can actually lead to such deep insights. I mean, Pruseth really goes deep into the nuances of chain of thought prompting, and they explore both the potential benefits and the limitations.
It really struck me how much emphasis they put on practice and refining the prompts themselves. Pruseth actually suggests that it's almost like an art form, crafting these effective chain of thought prompts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just a matter of plugging in some formula, There's this element of experimentation. It's iterative, and you have to find that sweet spot that elicits the most insightful responses from the AI.
So there's this kind of like this dance, right? This collaboration between the prompter, the human, and the AI.
Mm-hmm. Because
we're not just giving it commands, we're actually engaging in this dialogue. We're guiding its thought process. And I think what's really cool is that we're learning from its responses as well.
It is. It's pretty remarkable. And, Pruseth gives some practical tips on how to refine your prompts. For instance, they talk about varying the depth of the reasoning steps depending on the complexity of the problem itself.
Okay, so sometimes you might just need to give it a few broad questions, and that might be enough to kind of spark the AI's thinking.
Yeah. Exactly. But other times you might need to break it down into much smaller, more detailed steps. Like you're walking the AI through, a complex recipe or something.
Because like finding the right balance between providing enough structure to guide the AI's reasoning, but not being too prescriptive either. We still want it to, think for itself, to be creative.
Exactly. And, that's really where the magic happens when we hit that sweet spot. That's how we can unlock AI's true potential and gain insights that we might never have discovered on our own. It's like opening a window into a whole new way of thinking, a new way to connect ideas and explore these possibilities that might have otherwise remained hidden.
It's so fascinating how this whole thing, chain of thought prompting, while it's rooted in this very complex technology, it all comes back to language, right? The way that we phrase the prompts, the words we use, the structure we create, all of these things influence the AI's response. And ultimately, they shape the insights that we gain.
That's so true. It really does highlight the power of language on our thinking and how we understand things. And I think as we keep exploring AI, language will play this, increasingly crucial role in shaping how we interact with these powerful systems, how we learn from them.
So for our listeners out there who are just starting to kind of dip their toes into the world of prompt engineering and AI, what would you say is the key takeaway? Where do they even begin with all of this?
I think the most important thing is just don't be afraid to experiment. Just dive into chain of thought prompting and play around with different approaches. See what happens. You might be surprised.
Yeah, it's really about embracing that curiosity, that sense of exploration. Just using chain of thought prompting as a tool for learning and discovery, like a way to have a dialogue with AI and actually have it be meaningful.
Exactly. And as you get better at crafting the prompts, as you refine that process, you'll gain a deeper understanding of how AI reasons. And I think, it might even enhance your own critical thinking and your problem-solving skills in the process.
So it's really a win-win, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if you want to go even deeper, I'd really recommend Dibabrata Pruseth's blog. It's a fantastic resource. They have a wealth of information on prompt engineering, practical tips, real-world examples, all sorts of thought-provoking insights to help you unlock the full potential of this.
So for anyone who is really interested in this and wants to, kind of stay ahead of the curve, I think this is an invaluable resource, this rapidly evolving field of AI. It's moving so fast.
It really is. But it's so exciting.
It is. And I think this whole idea of chain of thought prompting is it's a game changer. But before we get too carried away, I think it's important to touch on something we've discussed before, and that's the ethical side of things.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, any powerful tool, there's always the potential for it to be misused.
Exactly. And we have to be very mindful of the biases that can creep into AI, especially as these systems continue to learn and evolve. And we need to be critical of the information that's being presented to us, even if it seems very logical or convincing.
Absolutely. And that's really the key here, isn't it? Using chain of thought prompting not as a replacement for human judgment, but as a way to enhance it.
It's about using AI to augment our capabilities, not to, completely replace them.
It's about finding that balance, that partnership, that collaboration between human intelligence and artificial intelligence.
And if we approach it with that curiosity, a healthy dose of skepticism, and always, keeping in mind those ethical considerations.
And I think the possibilities are truly limitless.
And that's a great note to end on. If you are ready to take your AI skills to the next level and explore the fascinating world of chain of thought prompting, we highly recommend checking out David Pruseth's blog.
It really seems like chain of thought prompting can bridge that gap between humans and AI, make these complex systems a little more transparent, a bit more accessible to us.
Yeah, it really humanizes the technology in a way. And what I think is so exciting is that you don't have to be a tech expert or data scientist to use it. Anyone can start experimenting with it.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of the beauty of it, isn't it?
So let's say someone is listening to this and thinking, okay, this is really cool, but what can I actually do with this? What are the practical applications? How does this impact me? What would you tell them?
Oh, wow. The possibilities are huge, really. I mean, imagine you're a student. You could use chain of thought prompting to get a much deeper understanding of complex concepts in any subject, right? Or if you're a writer, you could use it to brainstorm new ideas or even help you structure your writing in a more logical way.
Yeah, it's like having this super intelligent research assistant, but one that can not only give you information, but actually explain how they found it, why it's relevant.
Exactly. It's incredible. And, as these large language models keep evolving, the potential of chain of thought prompting is only going to grow. Who knows what we'll be able to do in the next few years?
It's exciting and a little bit mind-blowing, to be honest. But before we wrap things up, I think it's important to circle back to something we touched on earlier, and that's the ethical considerations of using this technology.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's crucial to keep that in mind.
I mean, with any powerful tool, there's always that potential for misuse, right?
Oh, for sure.
We have to be aware of those biases that can creep into AI, especially as they continue to learn. And we can't just accept everything the AI tells us at face value. We still need to be critical thinkers.
Absolutely. We can't just blindly trust the AI's output, no matter how convincing or logical it might seem.
It's really about using chain of thought prompting as a way to enhance our own judgment, not to replace it.
It's about that partnership we talked about, human intelligence and artificial intelligence working together.
Finding that balance. And if we can approach it with curiosity, but also a healthy skepticism,
Yeah.
and a commitment to ethical principles.
I think we can unlock some really incredible possibilities.
Yeah, I agree. So to wrap things up, if you're ready to dive in and explore this fascinating world of chain of thought prompting, we highly recommend checking out Deborah Pruseth's blog. It's an amazing resource full of insights and practical tips. And that's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you learned something new. Until next time, happy prompting.